What do you think it's like to be a young person in the UK in 2023?
It just seems like we're surrounded by kind of like 4 brick walls. You're not sure which one you need to attempt to climb that will get you out of there. So whether, housing or investing or pursuing your career in the right direction or building a side hustle, I think social media has kind of a massive core root behind many of these problems. There's no turn off, there's no switch off. You're seeing the success of other people. You're being told what to do in this category, in your health, in your wealth, in your relationships, in this part of your life. The moment you go down one route, someone's telling you to go down another route. So I think that...
Welcome to the Mr MoneyJar show. This week, we are joined by Gabriel Nussbaum, aka That Money Guy, who has 1 million followers on TikTok at the time of speaking. So he is, if he's not the biggest financial creator in the country, then he's definitely one of. Gabriel is a good friend and an all-round awesome guy, and I'm very glad to welcome him onto the show today to talk about finance tips for young people. I do think that as a country, there isn't enough out there for young people when it comes to finance, and I'm broadly defining young people as people under the age of 30. So we have an episode today which is focused on ways in which young people can improve their financial lives, earn more, get on in their career, invest. We cover lots of different areas today, and I do know that there's going to be something in there for everyone who listens. So thank you so much for joining. Hope you enjoyed the episode. You're tuned into the Mr MoneyJar show. It's showtime. Gabriel, welcome.
Love it. What an intro. Absolutely excited to be here. I've been watching this show for quite a few months now. Just constantly DMing you saying, when can I come on? So thank you for finally inviting me.
Well, it's weird because this is like the 3rd or 4th time we're meeting in person. But I feel like we've hit it off in a big way. So thank you for inviting me on your radio show that we did.
Oh yeah, that was our first initial meeting, wasn't it?
The other day.
I was really trying everything I could to get on this podcast. As you can see. Doing anything, pulling all the strings, inviting you on the radio.
I think what we're going to talk about today is super important. I think as someone who's over the age of 30, I don't really class myself as a young person anymore. I kind of hand that mantle over to you and to people like you. So I really want us to talk about, I want to get some insights from you on what you think the state of play is like for young people in the UK today when it comes to their finances and things that young people can do to thrive. But before we get into that, could you just let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, of course. So if you don't know me, I'm Gabriel, That Money Guy, like you kindly introduced me as. The reason behind the name is quite simply, as someone who posts social, like short form social, no one really knows your name, but they look at you and they go, hey, aren't you that money guy on TikTok? So I was like, I'm going to adopt the name. I'll just take it for myself. But my story dates back to around 2020, 2021, where I'd finished university. I actually studied engineering. I then started working in finance at Barclays. And at the same time was trying my hand at short form social media, bit of long form as well, but really was passionate about this personal finance sector. And I think it was a bit of like right time, right place, right message. TikTok was on the up, but not so much for educational content creators. So I was kind of paving like the way with that kind of stuff. Quality was quite low because it was a new platform. And my background was more in YouTube, so my quality was a little bit higher. I had the camera, the gear. And I was just sharing things that I thought would be useful to know. I mean, nothing particularly sexy. I mean, nothing really is when it comes to finance. But just trying to do it in an entertaining, snappy, quick way. And I think like video number 10 hit the, algorithm nicely. Video number 11 did as well. 12 did as well. And it was kind of just, it went from there. It's been a crazy roller coaster. I mean, there was 100,000 followers in the first month. There was 1 million in the first 6 months. So it was a crazy start to life on social media. And obviously a lot has happened since then, but that's kind of the foundations and the beginning of the story.
Wow. So I know that you have 1 million followers, but I didn't realize you hit that milestone in 6 months. It's incredible. Yeah,
it was a rapid rise that obviously the growth had like kind of plateaued at that point or since then. And it's been a slow kind of growth since then. But I always kind of have to like pinch myself and remember like the numbers that we're talking here are pretty crazy. But yeah, it was very quick, very early, and it's been very good to me.
Do you have a job anymore, or do you do this all time now?
No, so I left my job a year later. So I can.
You can keep that in.
That was class. I thought I'd just pause. I left my job last year, about a year after I started content, somewhere like a year and a half after that. I was working at Barclays, but it kind of got to the point where I was doing this as a hobby, but it was turning into a business and into a career. And it was also where my passion was and where my enjoyment was. And, when you find yourself just like at work, but thinking all the time about, what's meant to be your side hustle, to the point where I knew that this was the right time, the right age for me to kind of commit and give it a shot. And I haven't looked back since. Yeah, over 12 months self-employed now, creating content online as a full-time job, which is a little bit weird because 5 years ago, this wouldn't have been a career.
Definitely, and did not exist 5-10 years ago. But yeah, you've earned everything that you've achieved to date, and I'm sure you're going to achieve loads more. You just mentioned your age, so how old are you?
I'm 26 now.
I think, and I've said on this podcast before, I don't think that the people in charge, the government, the systems that we create really prioritize young people, really prioritize people under the age of 30. I think that you've done really well in terms of like forging ahead and building something for yourself. Would you say that you agree with this? How do you feel? What do you think it's like to be a young person in the UK in 2023?
There are so many challenges, and I'm sure every generation had its challenges. So I'm only speaking from my own personal experience, but let's particularly focusing on the money aspect of things. It just seems like we're surrounded by kind of like 4 brick walls. And you're not sure which one you need to attempt to climb that will get you out of there. So whether, I'm sure we'll talk about this later, it's, housing or investing or pursuing your career in the right direction or building a side hustle, and it's not just 4 things, there's an endless list of these things. And it just seems like, especially with, I think social media has kind of a massive kind of like core root behind many of these problems. It has a lot of positives. I'm on there. I'm trying to be a positive force on social media. But from the negative side of things is you're constantly on. There's no turn off. There's no switch off. You're seeing the success of other people. You're being told what to do in this category, in your health, in your wealth, in your relationships, in this part of your life. The moment you go down one route, someone's telling you to go down another route. So I think that it's causing a bit of a headache and confusion. Whilst there's more information and more access to get yourself ahead than ever before, the noise is often also being a massive contributor to limiting everyone's ability to do anything.
Yeah. Would you say that social media is a net positive or net negative?
I think it's a net positive. But it depends on the user. So social media, I view as a tool. It's a tool and it's up to you how to use it. So I know I said it's a net positive. For many, many people, I'm sure for half, let's say, even the world, it's a net negative. But it's not because social media itself is bad or good. It's just a thing. And you can use it to enhance your life, or you can use it to, sit on the For You page of TikTok, swiping
forever.
Yeah. Quite literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of just like, there's many cases though where people complain about something being good or bad. I mean, one thing that I compare that to is debt.
Yeah.
Or credit cards.
Yeah.
These things are tools. And for people to come around and say credit cards are the bane of my life, they're the root of evil. Well, for some people, they've earned, thousands of reward points. They've flown across the world and they've never paid a penny in debt. It's just a tool.
I completely agree with that, by the way. I went on GB News a few months back and I said this. I was like, debt isn't good or bad. It's just a tool. And they quoted that and they made that the name of the YouTube video and the name of the clip. And loads of people hated that. It's like I was almost glorifying debt or something. But I do think that, to your point, there's loads of tools available now, social media and so on. And I guess it's just learning how to use them in a way that serves you. So I want to start off with, finances. You've already touched upon that. What do you think are the biggest financial issues facing young people today?
Probably the number one dominating most young people's minds is where to live, property. I think that it feels harder than it has ever before. I mean, I'm personally in the position right now where I'm renting. I'm hoping to buy one day. And I'm seeing all of the challenges that like my generation is having. But I also know that I'm in quite an advantageous position. Like, I've got a good job, a good salary. I'm married, so double salary, dual income, which is a massive benefit towards, getting a mortgage or getting on the property ladder. I've been working for a long time, so I've kind of got that, ability to apply for a mortgage. And I've got advice and people around me that have done it before that can help. So that's like a really strong starting position. And I'm still finding it so hard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, I can only imagine for people that maybe single income or aren't in the strongest career or live in an area where property prices are flying high. I mean, anyone that lives in London, basically, because that's such a pain. And I think it's probably the single biggest hurdle for our generation. The stat that often comes out, or what people often argue, is other generations have had it hard as well. People had mortgage rates of 15% plus. But I think that the one thing that's unique to our generation that no one can argue about because it's a hard fact is the way that the average earning rate versus the average house price is going. And it's just spreading further and further apart. When we look back at those times when, it was 15% mortgages, okay, I agree, that's a horrible position to be in, but house prices were 3 times the average salary.
Sure.
Now we're looking at 10, 11, and it's only growing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm myself in this position in an advantageous point as well. So I can only imagine what it's like for the rest of the generation.
What things do you think that, I completely agree with that analysis, by the way. What things can young people do to move the needle on this? You mentioned one, which is, well, like, don't just get married to someone, but having an additional income or additional incomes is one.
Of course.
Right? Because the more incomes you have, the more you can borrow, essentially.
I suppose, but then the other side of it is if let's say you're not even in a relationship and you want to buy with someone else, you then need 2 bedrooms and all of a sudden you're in the same problem, property's more expensive. What things that people can do? I think the one thing that I want to say to young people, which I often have to kind of say to myself, is this idea of property being the be all and end all is just no longer the case. Often it's cited that renting is throwing money down the drain. And I feel like the needle is moving a little bit. I'm not saying that renting is like incredible or it's like, the best thing, but I think you're going to find more and more people, if we look back in maybe 50 years time, that decided to just live a life renting rather than buying a property because it didn't make financial sense to purchase a property. So what I want to say to young people is stop putting so much pressure on yourself, thinking you need to buy. That's the only objective in life. If you don't do that, you're never a success. There is so much you can do with your money otherwise to live a prosperous financial life, whilst, for example, renting. What I do say is do the maths. There are so many tools online that you can use to calculate quite literally whether buying or renting is going to be cheaper for you in the long run. And a massive part or contributing factor behind that is going to be how long you want to live in said property for. So if you're like, oh, I just want to buy, but I'm going to live in that property for 3 years or 5 years, maybe renting's a better option. Or I don't know where I want to live yet, but I know that I need to buy a property here. Well, what happens if you hate where you live and you don't have that freedom or flexibility to move like you do with renting? I think that kind of the scales are moving in terms of like the power of renting versus the power of buying. I know it's controversial because everyone still says, like you're paying your landlord's mortgage basically. But then I say, especially with interest rates right now, well, you're paying the bank's mortgage or whatever it is.
Yeah. So as someone who's on the property ladder at the moment, although that might change next year, might end up having to sell my house, which is the point that Gabriel's making is when you borrow money from the bank to pay back a mortgage, you don't just pay back the mortgage principal, you actually pay back interest. Mm-hmm. And the interest on a mortgage is like just under $1.5 grand a month, but the interest is just under $1,000 a month. So it's like every month you look at your mortgage statement and you'll pay back a little bit of your mortgage, but then you'll pay back interest. Then if you live in a leasehold property, so like a block of flats, you'll probably be paying service charge. Then you have to furnish the flat. If anything breaks, then you need to pay for that.
Maintenance.
And it's not to say that, and if I be really honest, I try not to wade into this conversation too much because I don't want to be someone who's on the property ladder discouraging people from buying houses. I think if you find a house and you want to live in it and you have done the maths, then you should absolutely go for it. I'll never discourage anyone. But what I'll also say is, like, buying a house is like, that's like the end game, you know? Before you do that, you can just find somewhere to rent, bills included if you can. That is your only monthly outgoing on that house, and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Fix, you know what it is. Yeah, I think on what you've just said, I think it's important to have a mind shift that, okay, a property is likely to be the biggest asset you ever have in your life. But so many people are always looking, oh, is it a good investment? Is it going to, the likelihood is the house you're going to be in, you're going to just live in it forever. You very rarely are going to want to sell that or use it as an investment. And I think that's why in the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which many people have split opinions on, I think there's a quote that says your first property is a liability, your second property is an asset. Meaning if you live in that property, it's a liability because, you know, like that money is going out the window. You're not going to get it back because ideally you're not going to sell it. So you can't make the money back. So what I say off the back of that is when you do think about buying a property to live in one day as a young person, think about it as the reasons why you're doing it. Are you doing it because you think it's a great investment, a money-making scheme? Or is it because you want the comfort, you want the location, you want the stability, you want to be able to do and build a house that is a home for yourself? You want to know like that you can paint that room and it's absolutely like perfect for you. I think these are much more fundamental reasons to buy a property now than that's going to make me money.
Absolutely. You said that it's possible to rent and have a financially, and still reach your financial goals. I'm paraphrasing there. Like how is that possible? How can you do that?
Well, it's just other opportunities, right? So at the end of the day, this kind of like money game of life is just about growing as much as possible, right? Theoretically, obviously, we want to kind of think about our happiness versus growing money. There's again, a balance there. Some of the richest people in the world are some of the unhappiest people in the world. But let's say that happiness is out the equation right now and it's just about growing money. Property isn't the only tool to grow money. You can, you know, invest. That's another like big way of doing it. So let's say you were renting, maybe you potentially had more money to put towards investments for the long term. And that was another way for you to grow money. Perhaps you put that money into a side business. That's another great return. Perhaps you invested that money into yourself and into your own skills to progress your career even further, to put you on a salary that you never could have even imagined. There are so many other things that you can utilize your money for to grow your income and to grow your net wealth. Property isn't the only solution.
Yeah. And you're kind of a living embodiment of that, right? Because you, I guess, when you started your YouTube journey, which then became a short form TikTok journey, you put in a set amount of money into a camera and I'm assuming some lighting. And then now it's your full-time job. And I'm assuming you're using that same equipment now, or maybe you've upgraded it once or something.
Exactly. Like I don't even think about it like this, but you're spot on. I bought a camera, I bought some mic, I bought a bit of tech, the lighting, invested in some software online, some courses to teach myself how to edit, how to script, all this kind of stuff. And it's now generating me my full-time income, better than probably any return on any asset I could have ever have purchased.
Yeah.
I know that I'm lucky and unfortunate to be in the position that I am, and then not everyone has this kind of thing, and you can't just throw money at something and guarantee returns. But this has come with also a lot of hard work, dedication, hours, and all that kind of stuff. And I truly believe, and I'm sure we'll dive into this, that if there is something you're passionate about, investing in yourself to up your abilities and your skills can have more returns than most things in life.
No, let's continue talking about that now.
Sure.
Do you think content creation is for everyone, or are you speaking more generally about think about what you're good at, think about what helps people, think about what makes money, and then focus on that?
Yeah, content creation is just one tiny sector of what's imaginable. I mean, some people aren't interested in that. Like, it's not a skill. They don't want to put their face on camera. They don't want to do any of the skills associated with it. So maybe we're talking about side hustles again, but I'm also cautious to speak about side hustles as a must for everyone, because I know there are so many people that are just like, oh, like this side hustle rhetoric, like not again, like I'm just not interested in working like after hours. I don't want to work with myself. I just want to get a job and blah, blah, blah. So to those people, what I'm probably referring to is the idea of building your skill set. You can still go away and, let's say, in the career that you are within, outside of your hours, build certain skills that will pull you up that ladder, if that's what you want. Some people, again, are very settled. They don't want to climb the ladder. They just want to do what they're doing. They're content, they're happy, and they want to go home and enjoy their life. Fine. That's also another way. But then to people that are considering, let's say, these so-called like side hustles, 100%, it's the idea of, risk reward analysis. Could you put yourself a little bit of money into educating yourself on something that you're really excited by, you're so passionate about, with the idea that potentially it could start generating you income of some sort, and potentially, like I did, one day it becomes your full-time job. Or it just stays as something on the side that gives you that extra income, that gives you the flexibility and the assurance in life that most of us are really like searching for.
I've been thinking about making money a lot lately, and I was writing down some thoughts yesterday actually, and it was, what I wrote down was like 3 things that I wish I knew about making money sooner. And I'm still formulating these thoughts, but like the first thing I wrote down was that you don't actually make money, and I'd be interested to see what you think about these as well. You don't make money by following your passions, you make money by solving problems for people. I wish I knew that sooner, because essentially people will pay you to either save them time, money, or give them something that they want, regardless of how interested you are in the thing. So yes, it's important that you need to be interested in something, but you fundamentally need to solve a problem for someone. I also think that if you want to make more money, you need to solve problems for people who have money. I wish I knew that sooner as well, because rightly or wrongly, most of the money in this country is concentrated in the hands of like a few high income earners, high net worth individuals and business entities. So you need to, like, I now know that if I want to take on clients, I need to take on high paying clients. Like I can't be doing like small work. But then the last most important thing is, the more, and this speaks to the skill set thing, the more unique your skill set and the less people who can do what you do, the more you can charge.
Yeah. Don't know what happened to my voice there.
That would be my 3-step blueprint for everyone. I'd be like, focus on problems, focus on solving problems for people, focus on solving problems for people who have money, and become very unique. You as a person, you're unique. You can go into any room and be like, I've got 1 million people on TikTok. And how many people like on earth is that? So you can charge there's no limit on how much you can charge. Everyone has the ability to do that.
Yeah.
I think
those are 3 absolutely excellent points. I think, firstly, I'm loving the way that we're talking about money so openly, because so many people shy away from the topic and are like uncomfortable around it, earning money, making money. I think it's important. Mm-hmm. Like it's a massive element of everyone's life. Let's be honest. If we didn't have to make money, would anyone be in a job? Mm-hmm. So like, that's a brilliant aspect. But towards specifically your 3 points, the only one that I want to kind of query and push back on is the idea about like passion. Mm-hmm. Because I do think to be able to build that skill or that business or solve that problem, there has to be an element of longevity to it. Yes. You have to be willing to put in the hard work, the effort, and consistently repeat what you're doing for a very long period of time. So to people that are like, oh, I just want to make money, I'm going to go into trading. Or, oh, I just want to make money, I'm going to go into drop shipping. Great. Both ways that people can make money. A lot of people lose money. But if there's not that element of, like a little bit of fire inside of you, mm-hmm. like a little bit of like when you wake up in the morning and that's what's on your to-do list, you're like, oh, not again today. So without the passion, not saying you have to be passionate, you don't have to love the topic, but without that desire, you'll probably burn out much quicker than ever making money. Oh
yeah, and I agree with that. I think you can make money from stuff that you're passionate about. And if you want to dedicate yourself to something every single day, then you absolutely want to be interested in it. Mm-hmm. But if your passions do not help someone somewhere, then you won't make any money.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then another one of your points was about skills. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is something that I'm really like keen to talk about, because when you hear skills and you're talking about like, like going deeper and deeper into a skill until like you're the 1%, people often think, oh, I need to become the best at sales. Such a generic skill. Once if you were the best at, not the best at sales, but the top 20% at sales, mm-hmm. but you also were the top 20% at in the knowledge of, Batman. I'm taking something random,
Yeah.
put those two together,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you're in the top 1% of sales of Batman stuff. The idea is not to be the best at any one skill, but get good at a few, combine them, and you'll be right at the top of whatever that combination is.
I love this. So now we're talking about skill stacking, which is 100% like what I'm trying to do in my business. I think, and there are some, so skill stacking being where, as Gabriel's just said, rather than trying to specialize in just one thing, you take a combination of different things. And so you become this almost like fruit cocktail, unique kind of unique fruit cocktail of a person. And I'll end the analogy there. But like for me, I'm like content creator, public speaker, I'm building the comedian part of my skill stack, and writer. Those 4 things are like plenty to be really, really good at.
That's a lot already. And if you become the top 10% of all 4 of those, which isn't that hard, by the way, to become the top 10% of a skill set, it literally requires effort. Anyone can get to the top 10%. You put those 4 together, you're in the top 1% of people that can do that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're a massive asset.
Yeah. I hope this is encouraging to people, because I completely empathize with, but I'm tired and I just want to get a job, and I just want to like buy a house, and I just want to be able to live in it. Unfortunately, the days of like 5-figure houses are gone now. So as Gabriel said, we have our own challenges and we need to overcome our hurdles. And I do believe that everyone has got a thing or a bunch of things that they are uniquely good at, which you can make loads and loads of money from. But the other thing I'd like to get your opinion on, Gabriel, is that I think that's another major challenge for young people, not for everyone, but that is affecting young people today, is how society is set up to drain you of all your resources. Society sets up to drain you of your attention, your energy, and your money. Like wherever you turn, there is just someone, like you said with TikTok, you can just stay on TikTok forever, and TikTok will just say, yes, 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 more please, more please. So I completely empathize with, if you work 8 hours a day and you come home not wanting to work anymore. So I would also recommend to people, you need to be really ruthless at cutting out stuff that just doesn't help you, to build your skills for a period of time. Did you go through that when you started your platform? Did you kind of disappear? You said you did courses and stuff. Did you kind of disappear and rapidly upskill yourself?
I learned through trial and error a lot. That was probably my biggest. But yeah, 100%. I was working a full-time job. And so in order to grow these skills and to grow what I'm doing today, my evenings were gone. My weekends were gone. I had to really like focus on my time. Now, that's not to say I still went out. I still saw friends. Still saw my girlfriend, who's now my wife. So I did have to prioritize that as well. And just, it was kind of this mix. And that's kind of why I've gone full time now, because I hit the point where I was like, I want my free time back. But that's a luxury that came down the line of years of hard work. But yeah, you do kind of have to disappear. I think the hard thing is people just see this kind of like black hole, and it's just indefinite. It's just, they can't see the end line. So they're going to have to put in every evening for the rest of their lives. And I think what you said there before about this, for a limited time is quite like needed for people to hear. You don't have to just do things indefinitely. Like you can pick a period of time that you're willing to put in an hour an evening instead of doing ABC. That there's an hour somewhere because most of us are wasting it. I still waste more than an hour an evening. And just say, okay, for 3 days a week, this is going to be my time to build this thing for the next 3 months. I'm then going to analyze it, maybe take a month off, and then go again. It doesn't have to be this, I need to work 4 hours every evening and take all of it.
I would recommend 1 hour of quality CPD for everyone.
CPD being?
Continuous personal development. I think that's more than enough. So you can do whatever you want. You can play video games, you can watch Netflix, you can do all the stuff that's been set up by society to drain you of like your time and energy and money. But if you can just allocate an hour a day to do a course, to read a quality book in your field, to listen to an audiobook, to listen to a podcast, you can do a lot of damage really quickly within 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, and if you've got really short, sorry, go on.
No, because you gained 1 million followers in 6 months. So like it's possible to do.
Absolutely. And again, to make it even easier to someone listening thinking, An hour is a long time, because it is for our attention span today, the young generation. An hour is a bloody long time.
Oh no, okay.
but obviously you can grow, and if you do want to kind of get anywhere, you do need the ability to concentrate for an hour, maybe 2 30-minute blocks.
Yeah.
But you can start easy. Let's say you want to read a book. That's going to be your thing to help you develop yourself. Okay, I get on the train to work. I'm going to read for 15 minutes on each way. That's half an hour done. I get home. I'm just going to, sit down, another half an hour of reading. Done. Go enjoy your life after that. And like you said, that 1% every single day. Again, I know we're talking about money, and this has kind of moved into habits a little bit, but this is a massive element of doing anything. It's about the habits. I think that some people just look at like these big habit goals that they want to try and get to. So like we're saying, this hour every single day, start small, focus on one day at a time, and just stack it. Stop trying to get 100% better tomorrow. Just do one thing every single day, and you'll look back in a year.
And if I just love that you mentioned the 1% better every day rule, because I was jotting down some other thoughts about getting 1% better every day. Because I was listening to James Clear's Atomic Habits a few weeks back.
Shout out, read it if you haven't.
Yeah, big up James. 1% better every day. So if you, he says this in the book, if you get 1% better every day at something, in over a 365-day period, you'll be 37 times better at that thing by the end of the year. And what this means is you keep the 1% gain. So you get 1% better on January the 1st, and then you get 1% better on that day, and then going forwards. If I put this in monetary terms, you can actually grow 27 grand into £1 million over the course of a year by compounding it at 1% every single day. If I was to put the question to you though, at what point in the year do you think you get to £500,000 if you were to run the numbers?
Oh, this must be like month 11.
Yeah, November.
Solid.
Yeah.
Good effort by me.
Yeah.
I'm actually really happy I got that, because if I didn't, you call yourself that money guy. You can't.
No, so it's November. You make £500,000. So you're literally compounding 1% every single day. Nobody cares. No one's watching your videos. No one's taking you serious at all. You're just getting better and better, almost like a seed in the soil. You're just getting better and better and better.
Can see it.
Yeah. And then in November, there's a little shoot, and then you make the other £500,000 in December, hitting £1 million on New Year's Eve. Like this is why your thing about passion is important, because for you to be able to do something for 11 months,
with no one noticing,
with no return, you do need to love it. But I just wanted to share that.
No, this is compound interest, isn't it? This is if anyone's ever heard of compound interest, it's the idea of if your editor can throw some graphics in here, but like a chart that kind of goes up and it gets steeper the longer it goes on. This is the idea of compound interest in its most simple idea. I mean, Einstein called it the 8th wonder of the world. And it's this secret idea that in the short term, you see nothing. And then eventually, boom, things start to happen for you. It's the idea of investing. When I talk about investing for the long term, it's because in the short term, nothing happens. You don't really notice what's going on. But over a long period of time, all of a sudden, boom, you start to see massive, massive differences. I think, Warren Buffett has grown the majority of his wealth since the age of 65 or something like that.
He was in his 50s, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And he's been investing since the age of 13. So he, I think, grew whatever, let's say it's 5-10%. We can fact check all of this. You can look at it online, but the overall message still stands. He grew the majority of his wealth in his 60s. And he's now worth probably tens of billions, if not almost 100 billion in terms of his net worth. So it just shows you, I'm not saying you need to get to 60 or 70 to kind of hit anything, but it's this idea of if you think it's going to happen tomorrow, it ain't. You got to be willing. I had to put out video after video after video with nobody watching, when nobody cared, and you probably had to do the same when nobody was listening.
No one cares now. I mean,
yeah. To be fair, you've got a point. He's talking about me. Yeah, that's a bit harsh.
I'll say that. I'll say that about me. But,
So yeah, it's this idea. You've kind of got to be willing to not have those sexy results.
Yeah. So for me, the blueprint is find a problem that needs solving. Okay. So problem is, we're not taught about personal finance in school. Financial services brands are looking for ways to reach new audiences. So that's the problem. And then you go, okay, can I be passionate about this problem? Am I interested in this problem? Focus. Try and dedicate what time you have every day if you can. I actually like having a day off. I have like Saturdays off.
Have weekends off.
Yeah, you have weekends off. So like during the week, if you can, or whatever days work for you, try and just do one thing every day, chip away at it, and you will see results. Using the example about growing the 27 grand, if you give up in summer, in that year period, then you won't see any results. But if you can just continue until winter, that's when all of a sudden you'll start getting all this feedback and all this money will start coming in. Like, it absolutely works. It's worked for the two of us.
Yeah. And I'm sure people have heard this message before and someone might have tried something and thought, but it just didn't happen for me. It's like, you never know when was going to be that turning point. You've just given up a day early. That's the truth of it. Maybe not day early, a month early, etc. For me, I posted videos online for almost a year before I had any kind of reception.
Okay.
And for me, for the average, that's well faster than the average. That was bad English, but it's much faster than the average. And that's just to say, like, prove a point that a year was quick. And I was willing to go for 2 years, 3 years with no results because I loved what I was doing. And I knew there was an end goal.
You talked about compounding. How can young people approach investing?
Oh, my favorite topic. It's hard, okay? Because let's say you're a young person, you've got no income or a tiny income and you're like, what's the point of investing? Like, genuinely, what's the point of putting away that £10 spare I have? I'd much rather put it towards a takeaway. It gives me much more joy in life. So I say a few things. Number one is, okay, you might actually be right. It might, that sum of money that you're putting away might, even with the compounding interest over 50 years, might not turn into a crazy life-changing amount of money. But what you're probably doing at a young age is growing a habit. Coming back to habits, of the idea of, every month I'm going to be disciplined and I'm going to put away something towards investing. Because the likelihood is in a further 10 years time, your earnings are going to be much higher. And you've already started that habit. So you know exactly what you're doing when it comes to investing. I know loads of questions about this are going to be, oh, where do I invest? What do I do? Please just go on YouTube. We're not going to do an investing course right here, but just go on YouTube, go online and just type in how to invest followed by your country's name. And it takes half an hour to an hour to actually learn.
CPD.
Sounds like, what's it called? CBD, which is very different.
All right, yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my advice. Start growing that habit. Or alternatively, you can even think about, can I invest a little bit in myself? Because there's some of the biggest returns in life are going to come from self-investment. Buying a book for yourself for £10 and reading that could literally be the difference between, transforming your life going forward. Books have literally changed my life. There's a few that I would probably highlight, like I said at the beginning, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But not because that book was so impactful itself, but because it was kind of the turning point for me in terms of unlocking the idea of this unlimited potential that we can have as humans. Yeah. Reading one book was whoa, and it changed my mindset. And I've read loads more since then that have, in terms of valuable and tangible skills, had much bigger dents. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one of the first books that I read that made me go, you can think differently.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into the whole thing of the system, forces us to think in a certain way and all this kind of stuff. But knowledge is out there. It's so accessible. You just need to kind of show yourself a glimmer of it. And I think for most people, you get hooked.
Yeah, I think, definitely a gateway book for me. I read it when I was 25, 26. And I think a good book. So, there's some types of books where you read them and there's some really prescriptive kind of steps and advice that you can follow. But I think there's another job that books do, which is that they just inspire you to think differently. It's almost like downloading an app into your brain or something.
That'd be cool. You could probably do that in a year or two anyway.
Yeah, the way the world is going.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, I wish I had taken more tangible actions from the books that I've read. But yeah, they give you that little bit of excitement when you're reading them. They really do. And I haven't stopped reading those kind of books, self-development, specific skills, all about different things. I probably have got more specific now that I know the angle that I'm trying to get and educate myself on. But at the beginning, genuinely go on 10 best books to learn about money or 10 best books on self-development and find one, buy it. It'll be a tenner. It will probably be the best investment of your life. Genuinely, pick any. I'm not even going to tell you which one to pick. Pick one that interests you.
Yeah, and if you're not so much of a read, write, learner, you're more of an audio learner, then go on Spotify. If you have Spotify Premium, you have access to probably hundreds of books. Just type in money, they come up. You will run out of minutes because their pricing system is just bonkers. But you can probably listen to 3 or 4 books a month on Spotify.
100%, or get the Kindle free month trial or whatever it is. Read as many as you can, as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
And
Commute,
cancel it.
Washing up, like just pop your headphones in, listen.
Yeah, I think, like I said right at the beginning, like the benefit of social media and like this digital age is that we have everything at our fingertips. It's just whether we want to access it.
Sure. You mentioned that you're, if you're happy to talk about this bit, you mentioned that you're married.
Yes.
Newly married?
Just over a year ago.
Cool. Congrats. Can I still say congrats? Continual congrats on that. I think that the financial piece, like the hard numbers and the money, obviously really important. But another thing that Warren Buffett says is that your choice of spouse is going to be one of the most important financial decisions you ever make. So what can young people do in terms of, not just meeting someone, but just like human connection and happiness? What brings you happiness in the day-to-day?
From a financial point of view, or
more holistically?
It's hard to describe. It's really in the small things, if we're talking specifically relationships. Like, it's very hard to say it because you need to kind of know it, and how, like, it's an experience thing. And I will very much say, like, when you know, you really do. So if we're talking like holistically, what makes you happy in like a relationship from a day to day, it's just, every little thing that you do for each other. And I think that it was an idea. So I'm Jewish, and like one thing that was like kind of mentioned, like from like the rabbi that did our wedding, and from like someone that was like, before you get married, as when you're Jewish, you like learn about being married and all that kind of stuff, from like a teacher. I think that it was said like marriage is about giving and expecting zero in return. This idea that you're not going to go and do the washing up because in return they'll go and do X, Y, Z. Like in your mind and the way that you should act, it's just about give, and they could do nothing and you would be absolutely fine with that. It wouldn't grind your gears at all. And that's not like natural to the human psyche. But if you find someone that you're willing to do that for, which I have, that's kind of like what brings you like that joy and that happiness. Because when you're married to someone, they will give back to you. And then every little thing that they do, you'll kind of appreciate to a whole new level because you were expecting nothing.
Thank you.
That was deep though.
No. Well, I think that what social media has done to, you talked about social media almost being both a blessing and a curse, where it's given people access to all the information on the planet basically, but also a lot of noise. I think dating apps have done that to relationships. I think you have access to more people than ever before, but then it's like, so who do I get with? Yeah. I'm very interested to see what will happen in terms of how human relationships evolve for our generation.
I feel like I think we've gone to a point which is quite unique where we're coming back into the community and human aspect. I don't know if you're realizing this in your life, but definitely when it comes to social media, the analysis is now that communities are more important and like than having a massive following. Being able to speak to people and actually engage and have interactions is becoming really valuable. So I'm hoping that leaks into like the area that we're talking about when it comes to dating. But in terms of dating apps, I don't have so much experience because I knew my missus since she was 4. Well, I was 4 at the same time. So we did not meet that way.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
That could have gone so bad.
Yeah, we'll edit that out. I agree. I think technology should be used to facilitate real world interactions and the stuff that have always made people happy and have helped people to flourish. But if we use technology simply to make money or technology for the sake of more technology, then it's just not going to work at all. You started the community.
I have.
Talk to us about it.
So, I mean, as a content creator, for any of you listening out there, it's a lonely place. It really is, because you're probably a one-man band, a one-person business, doing everything, editing. Maybe you've outsourced an editor to start with, but you might not know who they are. So you're basically in your room, filming, talking to a camera on your own all day, every day. And And I just realized that unless you're like the top 1% of the 1% who get invited constantly to events and, YouTube parties, TikTok parties, it's very unlikely you're ever going to meet people doing the same thing unless you're very extroverted and willing to take that upon yourself. So I was like that. I did meet a lot of people, but I realized that the majority of people do not. So myself and a few other friends that are also content creators realized that this was occurring. And we were like, you know what, screw this. If people won't like take it upon themselves, and if like you need to be one of the top 1%, or like YouTube won't do this for us, or TikTok won't do this for us, let's just do it for ourselves. And so I'm building a community for content creators, people who do this religiously, like put an effort, have built followings and engagement, but just need that interaction. And it focuses on human events in person, come and actually meet each other, talk to each other. It doesn't matter what niche you are, what you specialize in, how long you've been doing it for. The key for us is obviously we have to have a cutoff line. So we're trying to make sure that you are a proper content creator, and you've been doing this and you've built a following, because it's kind of not that a following is the be all and end all, but it's a sign that like you're doing this properly. And it's been incredible. I mean, you're part of our community. I don't think you come to one of our events just yet,
but I will be, hopefully, by the time this comes out.
Exactly. So hopefully by then. And yeah, it's just been such fun to build. We've got over 200 creators now in this community that, we might not have KSI and, like Logan Paul, but we've got people that are just constantly bringing value to each other. And it's like, just throw a bunch of people in a room and magic happens. And that's what we're doing.
What was the turnout like at your most recent event?
Had over 100, almost 150 creators at an event. They had a combined following of 60 million on social media. And every single one came up to me being like, this is the best event that I've ever been to. And it's so funny because a lot of them had been to events by YouTube and by TikTok. So I was like, you don't have to blow smoke up my, tell me how it is. And they're like, no, genuinely. Because it's like everyone in that room wanted to be there, wanted to engage. There was no egos and stuff like that. And I know that I feel like I'm speaking on a really high horse because it's all about content creators, with thousands of followers. But this is true in kind of any area. Put yourself in communities. They exist out there of something that maybe you enjoy. And let's take running, for example. We said before this podcast, you're like, I love running. There are so many running clubs. Go and join a running club and you'll get that same engagement, that same buzz, and meet people with the same focus that are maybe outside of your natural bubble. They'll be so warm and engaging to you because you have that shared passion of running, that it could be the best thing that's ever happened to you.
Everything you just said is amazing. I know we're coming to the end of the episode, so I'll just give 2 reasons why. Firstly, you are so good at spotting problems. You're going to go really, really far in life because you're really, really good at looking at a situation and going, why is this situation not good enough? Or why does it suck? And what solution can I bring in to solve that problem? That's incredible. And I feel like I could just drop you on a desert island somewhere and you just find a way to solve people's...
Build a community.
Yeah.
I do like to talk to myself. I do it in videos all the time.
But then the second thing that I think you've touched upon that's really important is, if you are a young person that's listening to this, listen to what Gabriel's just said. There is a almost societal wide epidemic of lack of connection and lack of people being together. So I reckon you could take any vertical, any niche, and just bring people together within it, and it'll be really new. Really novel.
Business idea for anyone listening that's got a passion and can't find it
Thing
themselves.
plus real life community. Because people have had enough of doing Zooms and working from home and social media. People just want to meet 3D versions of other people.
And I know that the podcast and our conversation steered a little bit away from money, which is what most of us specialize, me and you specialize in. But I'm hoping there's been a lot of underlying advice that can be applied to everything financial in your life as well. Hopefully, as well as any other aspect, if that's where your interests are. And plus, me and you speak plenty about money on our social media, so we didn't have to continue always talking about it. But yeah, honestly, from your perspective, the way that you hold conversations and your own unique takes on things, again, poor English by me, but that's a real superpower. And I'm using that word specifically, but maybe people won't know why just yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that it's really unique to have unique perspectives. So many people like to, just follow and what someone else says. I'm just going to reshape it a little bit. But I struggle at it as well, but you formulate your own ideas really nicely. And I think that's probably why you host a really strong podcast.
Thank you very much, man. There's a question we like to ask anyone before we wrap up. And it's, what's the best money advice you've ever received? Who shared it with you and what did you learn?
I'm going to say a really basic one. Don't know what age I was, maybe younger than 10. My grandma used to give me some money for my birthday, still does every year. And she said, here's your money, spend half, save half. Sounds so simple, right? But it's probably the reason why, I hit probably the age of 18 or 20 and still had money, like some savings in my bank account, which is unique. If you look at the average statistics, I shouldn't have had anything in my bank account at that age. And I think that it's just built a lot of habits about the idea of patience and kind of perseverance and longevity that I might not have had before. So even if it was like £10, £5 went on spending because it's my birthday and £5 went in the bank. And there are obviously different things you do with your money. We've discussed them in the podcast, but that was a real good starting place for me as a kid.
Okay, shout out grandma. I think that's...
Big up grandma.
Yeah, solid
I'll forward
advice.
this clip to her. She'll love it.
Solid advice. Yeah, we talk a lot, Gabriel. Always great to chat to you. Always learn something new from you. And I really mean what I said to you about your ability to spot problems and solve them. I think it's easy to see a problem and to be crushed by the weight of that problem or to become a victim. And you rise above the problem every time and actually bring people together and spread like joy and happiness and education and stuff. So please don't lose that. For people who want to find you, where can they find you?
So you can find me on TikTok at Gabriel.Nussbaum, which is my surname. But if you don't want to spell that, just type in Gabriel, that money guy. Much easier for you. Do the same on, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, the social platform you use, Gabriel, that money guy. You'll find me. Hopefully you enjoy some stuff I have. And if not, that's cool.
Nice. And where can people find Creator Space as well?
The Creator Space, Instagram. If you type in the Creator Space UK on Instagram, you can find us there. You can apply to join if you're a creator watching this or listening to this. We would absolutely love to have you, build our small little community. That's it.
Nice. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for watching this week's episode of the Mr MoneyJar Show. If you enjoyed it, then please do subscribe as it helps out the show a lot and enables us to continue running. Anyway, we'll be back next week with another special guest. I've been your host, Timmy Merriman Johnson.